It was 50 years ago on New Year's Eve that a man called Donald Campbell broke the world water speed record on Lake Dumbleyung. Where's that, you ask? It's a lake in a tiny town just around 200 kilometres southeast of Perth. Have a listen.
I think we're speaking now to two of the most excited people in the world, Donald Campbell and his wife Tonya. How are you, Donald? How do you feel now? Well, very relieved. We've been terribly lucky here at Dumbleyung as we were at Lake here. Had we another quarter of an hour, we would have missed it. We just had those few minutes and we were able to take advantage of them.
That's right. This Albany Dr. Breeze came in very quickly.
Well, it does every night, and it's a matter of almost seconds rather than minutes.
I feel sure that you'll have something to say to all your team here at Lake Dumbleyung too on the lakeside.
Well, my word, we've already had something to say to them over the radio, and well, this is the first time that any one team has taken these two records in the same year, and we're jolly grateful that it's been us, and frightfully glad that we've been able to do it here in Australia.
And what about celebrations tonight? Are you going into the town of Dumbleyung?
Well, we certainly will be, yes, because we wanted to show our thanks and appreciation to all the boys here at Dumbleyung who've worked so hard for a long time.
I think at this particular stage, on behalf of everyone here in Australia, I'd like to congratulate you, Donald Campbell, and also congratulations to you. We wish you all the very, very best.
Thank you very much.
Donald Campbell has made it. The first man in history to break both the world land and water speed records in the same calendar year with just 8 hours to spare. For the record book, Leo Villa tells him Bluebird clocked 269 miles an hour on that final run, giving an average of 276 miles an hour, a world record.
For cropping-wise, 64 was a pretty bad year, and cropping-wise, a lot of the farmers had some spare time, so they were very lucky that we were able to spend a lot of time helping them. The thing that amazed me, every time they came back in, there'd be 3 or 4 blokes down there with screwdrivers tightening all the bolts. And one other thing I remember, we were always warned, don't wish Donald good luck, because if you do, you'll just turn around and go back, so we're all warned about that.
My dad, but the sheer enormity of the task. People need to just sit and think, if you go and see the lake, how do you even get there with a great big 3-ton boat, bring it from the other side of the world, and get enough people to support the local community to go and remove the ducks, to be as support vessels, to organise the fuel, the catering. My father didn't just come on his own with a boat and an engineer. There was a large entourage of people that all had to be accommodated, fed, watered, looked after. And you're not talking about in today's modern times when we've all got mobile phones, laptop computers. Everything was done on telegrams and pigeon post, and it was done with the strength of character of the people that were surrounding it, and reliance and trust in people to make something, a man's dream, come true. And that's what Dumbleyung did for my father.
When you've got to go, you've got to go. Donald Campbell knew that, and he did it, so thank you all for being very punctual as well.
So, can everybody say Kaya? So that means hello. So, Kaya Wanju. Can everybody say Kaya Wanju? Yes, that's hello and welcome. So,
those who were here in 1964, lucky enough to be growing up here and have some vivid memories of the Bluebird parked in the police yard, or some were lucky enough to be at the lake and watch Bluebird skim across the water. And they can recall still now the thunderous noise the jet engines made as it echoed around that lake. Others have a few humorous tales to tell about the characters and the events surrounding the 3 weeks that the Campbells were here.
Good afternoon, everyone. After some of the special words that we've heard here this afternoon, it's it is sentimental. We trust that this replica will serve your tourism very well in the future.
Yeah. Mr. Campbell hired a plane and flew to Lake Dumbleyung, where he was met by Coal Ward, members of the Dumbleyung Roads Board, farmers and community members to discuss the logistics of moving his camp all the way over here. If it was going to have to happen, it would have to happen in a short time. So I'd like the 3 unveilers to come forward and unveil. Thank you.
It's solid.
South Australia! South Australia!
Don't worry, Brian, we've got that on tape.
Every time there was a call, there was no telephones to do that anymore, to get in touch of those days. Someone would come up and say, oh, Donald's going to have a run this afternoon, or get down there quick, and we'd all pack the 4 children into the car, get down the lake, and it wouldn't happen. So this day that Cole sent the sergeant home to say he's definitely having a go this afternoon, I was washing the floor, and I said, well, you'll have to wait because I've got to finish the floor. I've been down there lots of times.
And I only heard this folklore story a few years later about the vivacious and exotic Tonya, who drummed up a lot of excitement and a keenness that might not have been there if Donald had been on his own. I'm sure the blokes gave Donald a hand just to get a glimpse of Tonya, to be quite honest. But she also, and why wouldn't you, a dusty, hot place, Australia, and Europe, cold and not the place you'd have a Nicky swim, so she seemed to be quite keen on swimming in the nude. But in case someone or anyone came across her having a swim, or I don't know, they might have thought there might have been a crocodile in the lake, but a young policeman was allocated the job of keeping an eye on her, and the story is that when she came out of the water after a swim one day, she said to this young bloke, what do you think of my body? And like a true gentleman, it seems astounding, but he said, not as good as my wife's. I hope he didn't offend her, and there's no offence meant by the story, and she's a very nice lady, but why wouldn't you enjoy a Nicky swim in the Dumbleyung Lake?
To be the fastest man on land and sea, and an inland lake he found, where all his dreams could come to be, but the wind kept on blowing, and a record there he thought he'd never see. Bluebird flying with
They're going to come straight at us.
Bluebird soaring
at 3:43.
Downright foolish, but it was his dream to be the fastest man the world had ever seen. It was 1964, late afternoon on New Year's Eve. The wind did drop away.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dumbleyung.
50 years have passed on now since Donald made his run and put our lake right on the map in the town of Dumbleyung.
I live in the UK, sadly, and here you are, you wonderful Dumbletonians that have nicknamed you, and the wonderful Australian spirit, and you revere and have respected my father's achievements, actually more than the bloody Poms have. You know, everyone says to me, surely your father was an amazing man. And I said, no, he wasn't. He was an absolute bastard. He was a mean, cruel dad. He never said he loved me. He never took me out shopping. He never did anything like that. And because you have to realise my father was brought up in the shadow of his own father, Sir Malcolm Campbell, who was a real dour Scot. I have realised just what a great man my father was. And it humbles me that you all have taken him to your hearts and to your minds, and you've celebrated him in this way. Just a massive, huge thank you. To you, he was Donald Campbell. To me, he was just my dad.
We clobbered a couple of ducks, and for scientific purposes only. And we actually sent them to Perth to be analysed and dissected to to work out that they couldn't fly anyway.
Well, I have a story on behalf of my husband Terry, who actually owns the land that the monument on Pussycat Hill is situated. And he was 18 when the record was actually broken, and he was harvesting in the paddock around Pussycat Hill, and he had a breakdown in the header, so he actually had to get off and go into town. And while he was in town and then he was driving back to the paddock, he actually heard on the radio where the water speed record was broken. So even though he was working right on it and could see everything, he actually missed it at the time.
When the entourage had gone and the dust had settled, there was a few grumpy people around town. They said, "Hey, bloody pommy, aristocratic, swatting into town, using everyone up, left town without paying bills." And they were sort of, good riddance. And they lost sight of the big picture that we'd had a world event happen on our doorstep, put us on the map. And I think that's, people mellowed over the years.
And he's sort of worrying about getting back, and Cole said, "You better do it now because the Albany doctor's coming. You can see, when we get it, you can see it coming." And within half an hour I got a photo of the children in front of the Bluebird, and the waves are this high. They really had to. So I think he just went. I just wanted to finish by saying how proud Cole would have been if he'd have been there to see him honoured by the town, and he would have just been so thrilled to think that it all started with just a thought in the head, and I'm sorry he wasn't there. That's it. Thank you.
3 years after my dad did his record here, he was killed in an accident. As it was, his accident was so tumultuous and so spectacular. To see this boat rise out of the water at over 300 miles an hour and climb into the sky and do this enormous backward flip left an impression on every single person that's ever seen it.